And I think to have success as a basketball team is why you hire, okay, and why you fire too, right? Right. Speaking of hire, you get where I'm going here, okay? We are going to move back into the NBA for this one, and the question is: will Dan Hurley regret turning down the Lakers' job to stay at UConn in pursuit of a third straight title? Zach, the mic is yours.
Yeah, Will. So I'll start off by saying this. I understand that the big story today and the big story here is Dan Hurley turning down the Lakers, and this guy is coming back to UConn to try and three-peat. And first of all, that's a great thing for the sport of college basketball. Anyone who's listened to the show long enough knows deep down that's actually my favorite sport. I've been following it, watching it a long time. It's kind of a niche sport. I understand it's not for everyone, but I'm happy from a selfish perspective that Dan Hurley's back. He's a huge name, and the sport needs a name like him without Coach K, without Jay Wright, without Roy Williams. So I'm happy he's staying. But I think the biggest story today should be how much of a joke the Lakers franchise is, and the fact that they think their head coaching job is much better than it actually is in reality. And Lil, I remember a few weeks back on your take for 99, you mentioned LeBron James and the fact that you weren't really exactly sure what his future holds, and his career was kind of at a crossroads. And during that take for 99, I said that the Lakers were very underratedly one of the worst run franchises in pro sports over the course of the last decade. And the only reason why they're not discussed like that is because they've been able to attract stars. You know, Kobe Bryant, they got LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and they've won a few titles in 2020 and in the bubble and in 2010. But I thought when reports surfaced that they were going to make a move for Dan Hurley, my immediate instinct to that and my immediate reaction was I thought they were going to offer him a deal that made him one of the highest paid coaches in the NBA, even more money than the Detroit Pistons offered and got Monty Williams for last year, which was a 6-year, $78.5 million deal. But instead, they only offered him 6 years for $70 million, which would have made him the sixth highest paid coach in the NBA. I was expecting him to be first or second, but sixth? That's simply not good enough. And the Lakers weren't even the only team to try and steal Hurley away from UConn this offseason. The University of Kentucky did that also, and they offered him $11 million per year, which is more than the Lakers did. Like, this is not a well-run franchise. Before the Lakers hired Frank Vogel, they wanted Tyronn Lue as their head coach, and they made that public. They made it clear to everyone that would listen. And then they lowballed him, and they got embarrassed after they hired him because everyone knew Vogel was not the guy they wanted. Rob Pelinka also hasn't spoken to the media since they fired Darvin Ham. So whenever they do hire their new head coach, that press conference isn't going to be about JJ Redick or whoever they do end up hiring. It's going to be about what happened with Ham to start. Why did they fire him? And then also what happened here with Hurley. I don't think the Lakers ever thought to themselves that they were going to end up with Hurley because that offer just wasn't good enough. There wasn't enough money offered. And I think they did this maybe to try to persuade people that, okay, we tried to go for someone else not named JJ Redick, even though deep down they knew that they were going to end up with Redick all along. Or Dan Hurley just used them as leverage to get a better contract through from UConn through Woj, and they were just obliviously unaware to it because they still think their job is one of the best job in all of sports because they're the Lakers, because they're in LA, because they have a few banners that are, you know, growing hair. They're that old. They have dust on them. And that clearly isn't the case. And my last point here, what exactly has this front office done in the past decade to make us think that they know what they're doing and that they're not incompetent? I know they won a title in the bubble, but that was only because LeBron James said, I don't care about basketball situationally. It's LA and it's Hollywood and it's good for my business and my off the court ventures. But this Lakers team was in the wilderness for about a decade before that. They're just a mom and pop shop. And they fired Darvin Ham 6 weeks ago and they still don't have a coach. The draft is in 2 weeks. And my last thing is the Lakers publicly said, we want Jason Kidd. We want Ty Lue. We want Dan Hurley, all in the past 5 years. And they didn't end up with any of them. They all got raises and extensions from their current employer. That is just incompetence at its finest. And my last point, if LeBron James ever wants to win another championship, he has to leave this disaster organization because it simply will not happen in LA. But I think geographically and business wise, LeBron loves it there and they're probably going to draft money. So I don't know if I see that happening.
Yeah, salute to the Wolf of Wall Street. That was a very good movie, very underrated. When I watched that movie, I didn't really know if I was gonna like that movie or not. I just said, you know what, man, let me just shoot it on, man. And man, I didn't really know it was gonna like kind of like be similar to kind of like what I'm doing today. As far as my business is concerned. You can learn a lot from that movie. I suggest anybody watch it. The reason why I'm bringing that up, obviously, you see the picture behind the wall. I'm back. I'm not leaving. You know, it's a very good day in Uconn and a terrible day in Los Angeles right now. Okay, and that's how the world works. For something that's good for somebody, on the other end, somebody's having a bad day. That's life for you. But let me get back to my point, man. I think Dan Hurley would not regret it at all coming back to chase history. Especially due to the circumstances of the situation. I think it's a very sad day in Los Angeles to be a Lakers fan. I think this is going to be a big landmark of a disaster, moment in the Lakers franchise. The fact of the matter is that you went, I won't say all in because I do agree with you, Zach. You could have, put a little, lemonade in that pot when it came to the deal. It was a big contract. Don't get me wrong, but you could have spiced it a little bit more. But yet you have a guy turn you down. Marquee franchises of all time with one of the greatest players of all time. And he turned that down to come back to college. Sad day in Los Angeles right now. Okay. And if you're a Lakers fan, you really should be feeling bad. Now, I do think when you talk about Dan Hurley and what he was able to do in college, UConn, they won 2 straight chips or whatever. The off-ball movement they got going on, they shoot a lot of threes, and I think it's adaptable to the NBA in today's modern game. Now, obviously, Hurley would have had to kind of adapt to, dealing with different personalities, more mature personalities, especially when you consider the Lakers situation. I mean, coaches has been getting railroaded for the last couple of years. I mean, Frank Vogel, Darvin Ham, as soon as you say something that these players don't like, Anthony Davis, LeBron James included, they will tune you out. Okay, LeBron James will be running his own plays, and then you just sitting there riding shotgun. These guys are tuning you out until they're ready to throw you out. Now, I understand they gave him a 6-year deal, so maybe there was some security there. You could say allegedly, but I think for me, Zach, this is where I really want to spice things up because I think this situation reminds me of what could have been in a negative way for the Chargers when they hired a guy like Jim Harbaugh, who ironically won a national championship like Dan Hurley. We all know that situation. The Chargers were going through a kind of similar situation as the Lakers. Now that I'm bringing it up, it makes a lot of sense where I'm going because the Chargers, they obviously we know what happened with them, the pieces they lost, and they are at a crossroads, from an organizational perspective, and they needed to nail that hire, that coaching hire that's going to give them new life. And I think Jim Harbaugh is that guy. But let's not forget, he won a national championship. He had the option to return to Michigan, or he had the option to go on more interviews. And guess what they did when he came to the Los Angeles facility? They locked him in the stadium. Said, you know what? You are not going nowhere. We are going to negotiate a deal. Forget that Atlanta deal that is on the table. You're not going to Atlanta, brother. You're not going there. It's not happening, okay? We are going to figure out this deal, and I'm pretty sure that they probably lowballed him, like how Dan Hurley got lowballed. And I'm probably sure with him and his agent, who he hired, Don Lee. Okay, we're going to figure this out right now. We're gonna up the price, and I'm pretty sure they did that. That's why it took so long, and they got it done. Well, guess what? The Lakers should have took a page out of the Chargers book. They didn't, and now they're going to have to revert back. And all signs is pointing to JJ Redick to me. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to go in different directions. I think they should. And I could give you some coaches if we want to touch on that, a little later in the segment. But all signs point to JJ Redick. LeBron James podcast, buddy, with no coaching experience. Go tell it on the podcast. It's going to be interesting, Zach. I wonder if he's going to be the first coach to be coaching on that professional level and still do a podcast. That's going to be a very interesting thing. Hey, it's not 1999 anymore. Change is good in some regards. But yes, to answer the question one more time, I do think Dan Hurley will not regret turning down history to join the Lakers, crap show.
Yeah, like what happens if they lose a game or LeBron has a bad game or Redick makes a controversial coaching decision that not everyone agrees with? Is he going to talk about it on his podcast the next day? I just wonder what the dynamic in that locker room would be when you have LeBron and the coach who's almost like a friend of his. They do the podcast together. That would be that would be like me coaching you or you coaching me.
Literally,
that wouldn't work.
I mean, think about Steve Nash, in Brooklyn. Him and Durant was good friends, and you see it. When there were situations in Brooklyn where Steve Nash really could have got on his guys. He's hugging Kevin Durant off a stupid play. Like he's not even. It's like he's programmed. Like he was programmed, battery in his back to literally. Oh, okay, Kyrie Irving, you don't got to go to work today. No, go party with your friends, buddy. We got a game tonight, but go party. You know what I'm saying? And that's what James Harden was saying. That, he tailored to Durant and Kyrie Irving a lot. And that's why, one of the reasons why James Harden did not want to be there, because he likes the catering, and he gets that from guys like Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni. Okay. But yes, I think Steve Nash situation could be similar to JJ Redick on the Lakers.
The other thing about this, Lil, that I'm still thinking about is if you remember, I think it was last Wednesday, Shams and basically every other reporter that covers the Lakers says, okay, they're zoning in on JJ Redick to be the next head coach of the team. I remember Zay sent it in our group chat. We spoke about it a little bit. That was on Wednesday. And then the next thing you know, Thursday morning, Woj comes out with the scoop that the Lakers are zoning in. They're putting the full court press to get Dan Hurley. And when I first saw that, I was a little bit confused because I thought Shams he's not throwing out BS. Like everyone who covers the Lakers thought the same thing, that they're zoning in on Redick. What happened here? And I think it's one of a couple options. Either the first option, like I just mentioned, Hurley was just using Woj as a mouthpiece to make Uconn think, okay, I might go to the Lakers and that might be able to get him an even larger contract extension. If that was his plan, it worked. Or the Lakers actually thought that there was a chance that they were getting this guy and the contract offer they gave him just wasn't good enough. And Hurley said, you know what? Nah, I'm not doing this. I'm just staying at UConn. Either option is terrible. And they still don't have a head coach. We still don't know why Rob Pelinka fired Darvin Ham. And this is just a circus. I just don't know, no matter who they hire, if it's Redick, whoever else, this isn't going to work. And again, I just think the Lakers don't get enough crap for being one of the most poorly run franchises in all of sports. Like you would think this is such a historically great franchise with championship banners. And that's such an iconic logo. You're playing in Los Angeles. Everyone wants to play in LA with that weather. But man, Dan Hurley just turned them down. He would rather be in Storrs, Connecticut, really the middle of nowhere, than Los Angeles. It's just a bad look.
It's an embarrassing day.
It is.
And I think or embarrassing time, right? Yesterday was the day, but it's an embarrassing time to be a Los Angeles Laker, anything, fan, player, whatever. And I think for me, it's funny because yes, I think they haven't really got exposed. And you made this point, and I agree with you. When you compared the Lakers to the pre-Leon Rose Knicks, right? And we saw how we were before we got a guy like Tom Thibodeau who came in, established a culture, brought us a defensive identity, and changed and transformed our franchise. And I think the Lakers, they're going to need that guy. I'm not even sure they have the pieces there. LeBron James are getting older. He's getting older. He's going to retire soon. And I think when LeBron James leaves, whenever that is, whether he retires in the future, he comes back on a 1 to 2 year deal, however he does it, or he leaves outright in free agency, then I think that will be exposed a little bit more because they're not going to have the firepower, kind of like, us overlooking that, what you brought up. And I think for me, when you talk about, I'm going to respond to my guy, Kenny, I mean, look, from the broadcast, and it seems like he knows the X's and O's of the game, and that's cool. He's been in the locker room before. That's cool. But at the same time, not having coaching experience, I think you see veterans in the past not being able to handle LeBron James. I mean, LeBron James tried to get Eric Spoelstra fired in Miami. That's one of the best coaches in the NBA. Not every coach can handle those expectations. Not every coach can handle LeBron James. And when you have no experience, I think the best path forward for the Lakers obviously is re-signing James or trading him and getting some assets back and trying to do the inevitable, which is rebuild fully, right? Or you get a veteran guy in a veteran voice in that locker room. Somebody like Mark Jackson who could use another gig. Okay, somebody like Kenny Atkinson who never really got the opportunity to sit back and enjoy the fruits of his labor, the time that he put in to building a team out of the mud, which Brooklyn was in. And then Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving got there, tore that all up, and said, you know what? Get out of here. We don't need you. We want a yes man. And then everybody's running with this narrative about Kenny Atkinson. Oh, he don't know how to deal with stars. He didn't even get a chance to know how to deal with stars because they ran him up out of there. That's what comes with the territory of coaching superstar caliber players that only care about themselves. That only care about themselves. LeBron James has shown us the history when it comes to his career that he only cares about LeBron James, okay? And like I said, it goes back to my take for 99. LeBron James is at a crossroads, okay? He wants to play with his son. He wants to win another championship, right? He wants to do the business thing and continue the business thing and continue the family business. He got a lot of decisions to make, but it all starts with the front office getting that coach right because it's time.
Yeah, and I think hiring Dan Hurley would have been a good direction to kind of point to LeBron and say, look, man, you know, you're here. We want you to stay. We appreciate what you did for the franchise. But when you leave, which isn't going to be that long, Dan Hurley is going to be the real face of this franchise. And at UConn, he was known for his player development. You know, guys were able to stay in that program for 2 to 3 years and really get better. And it showed the last 2 years when they've won national titles. And I think especially too in the new era of the NBA, we've seen that trend recently where the teams that are winning championships are not, you know, the star big three driven teams. You know, this isn't 2012 with the Heat. You know, you see teams like the Celtics who drafted their core. You see teams last year like the Nuggets who drafted their core. You see teams like the Bucks win a championship who drafted their core. And I think the Lakers hiring Hurley would have been a direction of, okay, we're kind of going to go down that road and shift away from, you know, trading for Anthony Davis and signing LeBron James as a veteran. But clearly that's not the case. And now they have no real direction. And I agree with your point on Redick. If this was the Charlotte Hornets or the Detroit Pistons, sure, maybe I'd give them a chance. But the Lakers are a team right now with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, whether you like it or not, like they have championship expectations. If they don't at least get to or win the finals next year, it's going to be viewed as a disappointment. And I don't know how that's going to be possible with the first-year head coach. And I think the comparison to Steve Nash with Durant and Kyrie in Brooklyn is on the money. The two situations remind me a lot of each other because you have superstars who would be with the coach they want, but they don't know that you need the right experienced coach if you want to win a championship, and that costs Brooklyn. And I think if they do end up going with Redick, that would be exactly what happens here.
I mean, think about Kyrie Irving for a second and his individual career. He links up with Brad Stevens in Boston. Brad Stevens at that time still is a young coach, you know, young guy on the job. And he didn't really like gel with him like that. And then he goes to Brooklyn. He didn't really gel with Steve Nash on that type of level. They had a friendship, you know, outside the court. But as far as basketball wise, you know, he didn't really gel with him like that. And plus, obviously, it's hard to say when he was barely on the floor in Brooklyn. I get it. And then he links up with a guy like Jason Kidd in Dallas, a guy that's experienced. He has coaching experience, and he could connect with Kyrie Irving not only on a humane level, but from a basketball level. And he found his match. Coaching is very important. You need a guy that's going to be able to relate to a guy like LeBron James. Tyronn Lue was that guy. You know, that's why he won a championship with LeBron James. You know, Eric Spoelstra, that was that guy. We all know his credentials. You know, LeBron James need a guy that could connect with him on that level and not a guy that he could just run around. Who really wants to sit here, you know, after every loss, watch LeBron James with the mic, holding it like this and talking about, you know, oh, I want to win a championship. Oh, I'm not playing longer. You know, oh, my time is almost up. We're not trying to hear that right now. Okay, they got guys out here that's starving, trying to get playing time. We are trying to win basketball games. And I think there's a lot of expectation, a lot of snake, you know, movements, you know, in LA. And I don't think Dan Hurley needs to be a part of that. I think he made the best decision he could have made because opportunities are always going to be there. If he wants to get the NBA shot again, it's not shot. Okay, he's going to be able to get another shot if he continues to do what he's doing in college basketball. And it might be even a better shot than what the Lakers are right now currently and where they're headed.
One last point before we move on, and I swear I'm not trying to take us down a new rabbit hole, but I do think Hurley's dream NBA job would be the Knicks. You know, he's an East Coast guy. His dad is from New Jersey. Maybe one of the best.
Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, UConn is in the Big East, right? They're playing against Villanova. And by the way, like, I love Tom Thibodeau. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. But I think if Hurley were to leave for an NBA job, that would be the one, because they have a coachable superstar in Brunson, a guy that is not afraid to be coached. And it's interesting with the Knicks, man. Like, obviously Thibodeau's done a great job, and his job is is going to get a new extension. But, if the Knicks don't make a conference finals next year, maybe those rumblings begin. But, we don't have to go down that bridge right now. We still have a long time to go. We'll have that Tibbs discussion when it's time. I know it's a polarizing one, but hey, all I'm saying is if Hurley were to leave UConn for an NBA job, I think it would be the Knicks.
Yeah, I can't argue there. Anyway, Zach, any last words, or are we moving on to the next topic that we have on today's show?
I think we're good, man. Let's do it.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.